Welcome to our series of ups and downs for Star Trek Prodigy's second season. I am so happy to be able to go through this season in all of the detail that we're about to. So for those of you who may not be aware, we're going to do things a little bit differently because of the manner in how this season dropped. So normally, of course, as you know, we tend to get one episode per week. The odd time we'll get maybe 2 episodes per week, and that's fine. We got 20 this time. So for the sheer workload, we have to split it up a different way. Le gasp, le shock horror, I will not be the only face that you see covering the ups and downs for Prodigy's second season. You will see myself, and of course you will see Ellie Littlechild as well. And I am super excited to be sharing this project with her. So big up, Ellie. I am going to cover episodes 1 to 5 in this video. Ellie will cover episodes 6 to 10. That will be followed the following week by Ellie covering episodes 11 to 15, and the following week with myself returning to cover episodes 16 to 20. Put that hashtag Star Trek, hashtag Star Trek Prodigy, hashtag Prodigy spoilers, hashtag Star Trek Prodigy spoilers. You want to make sure that people can have the opportunity to mute those as well. Right, I think that's enough of a preamble. Shall we do some ups and downs? Season 2, Episode 1, Into the Breach Part 1. Big whopper of an up. Folks, we are back. How long has it taken from them getting to Earth to actually sitting there at Starfleet Academy? It seems like quite a long time, and for various reasons, it has been quite a long time. But seeing our favorite kids sitting there as part of the Academy just fills me with so much happiness. Because remember, we've gone from a group of misfits to a solid crew. Roktok, who is teaching everyone how she managed to stop troubles from multiplying. To say that cetacean observations is stacked in these episodes. We had one in there that I heard Chris squeal across the water. So make sure you stick around. We got Murph, who's doing a security training in the in the danger room, in the war room. You've got Zero, who is sitting down and, they're reflecting on the fact that, there's things they can't do. For example, tactile contact. And yeah, I wonder if that's going to be a thing. Anyway, and then you get, I can't believe I'm doing this already, my first down of the episode. Dal, you spent a long time getting to Starfleet Academy. Will you go to class, please? Will you go to class? Because everyone, Dal, Zero, Murph, Roktok, Jankum Pog, who's being very polite these days, get a message from Admiral Janeway that they're going to be going on their first away mission. Well, their first sanctioned away mission, I should say, with Janeway, and therefore their expertise is needed. And you're kind of going, well, why their specific expertise? Do you reckon it has anything to do with the Protostar? Do you reckon it has anything to do with maybe Chakotay? I'm assuming we've all seen the trailers. And if we haven't, kudos for your restraint. They all gather on the concourse. They're delighted to see each other again. Now, they are slightly, they don't get to see each other as often as they'd like to. And that is one thing as well, that you do get that sense of camaraderie again as they come together here, that it has been a while since they've seen each other. And of course, Gwyn is not here because she's off on her way to Solon because she has a very important peace mission to be a part of. Overhead are flying some new fighters, which by the way look really cool, taken up. But then, taking all of our attention, is that shuttlecraft that appears in front of them. Now, I mean, this is an awesome moment, whatever way you look at it. We've actually known about this scene for quite a while now, because this was in part of the footage that was released last year, taken up to the shuttle from the USS Voyager A. Oh, I will come back to that one. But also, welcome back, Robert Picardo. Taken up. The EMH is back. The EMH obviously looks the same, as you would imagine, just with a slight update to the uniform. I love these uniforms, as I've said last season as well. In a heartbeat, there's no kind of settling back into the character. It's the EMH. It's the EMH as we remember him. The only thing different, animated now. But I mean, if there was ever a character who would adapt to animation easily, I think the EMH is the one. So they board the shuttle and they're heading up toward their secret location. Okay, it's literally written on the side of the shuttle, but hey, whatevs. And the Doctor is taking them through what they're going to be doing. And the fact is, there's gonna be some wibbly wobbly stuff going on because we've got temporal things to concern ourselves with this season. We actually get, I'm actually jumping straight to the station office for a second. We get a timey-wimey reference taken up because you know that is a deliberate Doctor Who reference, especially when this season seems to have been sponsored by Temporal Mechanics 101. Seriously, like, in these couple of episodes, the words Temporal Mechanics 101, I think I said about 101 times. We will be very much concerned with temporal mechanics. Anyway, listen. We arrive at our destination and take a whopper of an up. The Lamar class Voyager A. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. You can see that obviously it takes inspiration from the Voyager herself, but also you can see that there is definite shades of the Sovereign class in there as well, particularly in those far longer nacelles, a more traditional, if you like, version of the nacelle with the swept back pylons and then the longer nacelle. How many times can I say nacelle? I'll say the secondary hull is closer, I think, to a Sovereign class, with the primary hull definitely evocative of the Intrepid class that we know so well, but still very much its own. It's not a kit bash. It's very much its own class of ship. Yeah, we get that lovely pan across dry dock, very evocative of the motion picture there. The crucial bit of information, there's 29 decks. I'll come back to that one. And then the shuttle comes in and lands, and there they are. Our kids are now on the Voyager A. We are walking through the corridors, and we get some really cool references, but there is one I want to specifically go taken up, and that is not just Nova Squadron, but those who comprise Nova Squadron. Okay, so the first, obviously, Nova Squadron was introduced back in the first duty. So you'll remember it's where we first got Robert Duncan McNeill as Nick Locarno. Now, we will know from Lower Decks Season 4, Locarno did return to Star Trek for a while. As you'll remember, because of Locarno's actions in the first duty, and of course, the compliance of Gene Hagar, Cito Jaxa, Wesley Crusher, and what happened, of course, to Joshua Albert, the name Nova Squadron has been a bit sullied. You know, even the version of Nova Squadron that turned up in Deep Space Nine was renamed Red Squad, as if the name was kind of, oh, we don't like that association. But no, they are very much Nova Squadron here. And that was a deliberate decision in an attempt to go, perhaps we can do something about this. That, you know, yes, there was a bad class and there was a bad event. That doesn't necessarily ruin the entire legacy. We have 3 members. There is Majel, who is played by Michaela Dietz, and I mean, I wonder who she could be named after. There's also a Lurian there, and then there's Zeph. Now, Zeph is interesting because I was there going, what alien race is Zeph, and what is it? Vitiligo. I reached out to writer Aaron Waltke about these episodes, just to see, you know, kind of check a few facts and see was there any kind of tidbits he could share with me. And one was like that, the deliberate inclusion of a character with vitiligo, because there is so little representation out there in media. As the Doctor walks our kids through the corridors of Voyager, he informs them that they will be given their own separate assignments on the ship. Now, initially, Rock is a bit kind of sad about this. You know, as you would imagine, they've only just got back together again. But then when everyone starts to hear where they're going to be assigned, everyone starts to change their mind a little bit. Jankum, for example, is assigned to engineering, and you can see Jankum's excitement when he sees the slipstream drive that Voyager A is equipped with. I mean, he's just like, right, Christmas has come early. Murph is assigned to all of the different... So Murph is still on security training, effectively, so Murph goes straight to the holodeck. Not too bad, Murph. Zero is assigned to sickbay to continue their medical training as well, so Zero is delighted. And Rock gets the best assignment ever, because Rock gets assigned to cetacean operations. We finally have cetacean operations on another ship. Of course, we saw it on the Cerritos, which made me very, very happy. But yes, we have cetacean operations here with a whopper of a humpback whale in there as well. Dal, less happy. Dal gets assigned to command training, and here's a whole bunch of books that you should read. Hey, have you read Temporal Mechanics 101? This is the point where I start to think, are they sponsoring this season or something? Okay. Dal is tired. You know, he's like, oh, all I want to do is do something cool. I got to read all these books. So he sends a message to Gwyn, and we get our appearance from Gwyn in this episode, and yeah, it's just nice to see them banter off each other again. This episode is very much setting scenes. You know, Dal, being Dal, I suppose then, you know, goes and starts exploring, especially after Zero overhears, if you like, or sort of picks up on the Doctor's terrible subterfuge. I do have to say, down, giving the poor Doctor the role of being terrible at subterfuge. I mean, the Doctor's got more experience than anyone, all those hollow novels he's written. But yes, he lets slip that there's a Shuttle Bay 3 on this ship. Isn't there only 2 Shuttle Bays? So Zero goes to Dal and says, I think you might be right, because Dal reckoned Janeway was hiding something from them. Well, she was. Off they go, and even though Rock Talk tries to stop them and says, well, hold on now, mate, we're Starfleet officers and we're in training, and then Murph's like, and goes into the Jeffries tube because, you know, first through the breach. And fair play. Off they go to Shuttle Bay 3 and they discover nothing. Bit anticlimactic then, Joe. I would kick one of those spanners as well. And it flies up and lands on a cloaked shuttle. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? And it's even more interesting that as they're standing there, the lights come up because the door's about to open, and in walk Admiral Janeway, Commander Tysus, Councillor Gnome, and the Doctor. Good thing Murph moves fast, isn't it? Because Murph whooshes them all up into the air. And so they discuss a secret mission that this shuttle, which is then decloaked, and it's not a shuttle, it's an experimental ship called Infinity, that it was to go through the wormhole to rescue Commander Chakotay. But Admiral Jellicoe has shuttered the mission because the wormhole's becoming too unstable, which means Chakotay could be lost in time forever, which is a bit worrying. What's also worrying is how much Commander Tysus does not notice the amount of dripping that's coming out of Murph over his head. And in fact, that's a down from me because, I mean, it's quite brightly coloured liquid and drips right in front of him. And I think why it's extra down is because during all this, Commander Tysus is talking about a mutiny? I'm sorry, so Tysus turns around and says, you know, I want you to know, Admiral, that yours are the only orders I will follow. Admiral Janeway has been ordered by Admiral Jellicoe to shutter the mission. Tysus is encouraging, or saying, like, I don't care what he says, I care what you say. I mean, okay, Tysus, I get loyalty, I do, but at the same time, 4-star Admiral versus 3-star Admiral. Listen, there's a whole episode about chain of command, I'm just saying. Well, anyway, Murph leaks again. This time Tysus does notice. Now, they do get out of there at this stage, but good lord, Tysus. That effectively brings us up to the end of Into the Breach Part 1. Part 2 opens up with a nice cool addition, taken up to the fact that Robert Picardo's name is now in the opening credits. So, yeah, I thought that was cool. That's an up for me. And then it more specifically opens up with Gwyn on her shuttle on the way to Solum. The pilot of this shuttle, I had to check this, but this pilot is in 2 places at once because the pilot of this shuttle is currently piloting the Voyager A. And that's a wee little down from me. I don't think this was a case of a twin because after this pilot kind of vanishes from Voyager A. So I noticed. And she seems really nice as well. I kind of would have liked to see more of her. That's certainly not a dark statement. Moving swiftly along, Solum, beautiful animation. Absolutely beautiful animation on this planet. Gwyn beams down to initiate first contact properly with the Valnakat. She beams where, I suppose, you know, kind of the damage is done. So she beams into the middle of a crowded area, announces herself. She's then escorted to what looks like sort of an emperor's chamber, or, you know, certainly a council chamber, and she addresses the council directly. Now we have a little bit of a problem because she's not alone. Ascensia, played by returning Jamila Jamil, who is just so good in the part, taken up, has arrived before her and has done enough to sully the Valnakat against her, and even enlists her younger self, because remember, wibbly wobbly timey wimey that's going on here, to prove that Essentia is of Solum, whereas Gwyn, we know, as real as Gwyn is, Gwyn was the result of an experiment by the Diviner to create Prodigy. And that is just enough for Essentia to poison them against her. They order her to be captured, and she, does a legger. And up she goes and gets out and smashes through some glass, and yeah, to be honest, it all looks pretty good for a minute. She calls her emergency beam out, and that's when I get sad, because that really nice pilot gets blown up. Back aboard Voyager A, the kids are wondering what to do with this information they've just done, so they think that might try and get a little bit more info. So Dal, being Dal, to be fair, he's consistent, hops back into the Jeffries tubes again and crawls through until he's over the bridge. Now, he sees a message that's basically magical ball of glowing energy deliver some sort of message to Janeway, basically saying, don't go through the wormhole, don't do anything, it's not time. Janeway is very, very concerned with what's going on here. But then suddenly, when Dal falls through the ceiling behind her, her face in that one, she's like, the hell? Sorry, that was definitely an up, because the animation is so good in that scene. Janeway's like, Dal, I really don't have time for your nonsense right now. And she's nice about it, because Admiral Janeway is so patient and nice in this series. She has Tysus escort. I love the fact that she has Tysus stand up, walk around the rail, and walk Dal to the turbolift that he was stood in front of the whole time, just to deliver the message. As the door is closing, Dal manages to say, maybe we can meet in Shuttle Bay 3? Okay, we see you, delivering the message that he knows what's going on. And that's one thing I think I appreciate about these kids, is that I read this as, they don't know how to be dishonest. They want to help, they're eager, and yeah, okay, they're maybe not following many regulations, but they do want to know what's going on, not just to know, but to be a part of things. And so when the Doctor transfers over to them and says, observation lounge now, they all go in and they say, look, we know that there's a cloaked ship. It's more of a, so what can we do to help moment. Janeway reveals that from the wreckage of the Protostar, they got an isolinear chip because they retrieved the black box. That has a little bit of footage from what looks like Chakotay's last stand, with like the most badass looking officer beside him who ends up getting shot in the shoulder. And this whole mission being put together is to go through the wormhole to find Chakotay, who, it is said, is 52 years in the future on Solum. Now, the wormhole that they're beside is tethered to that location. That's where the wormhole is. It's on Solum. And even though it's 52 years in the future, the time is moving at the exact same pace on both sides. So a minute here is a minute there, and vice versa. So you, in theory, could fly through and not basically interstellar your life away. Armed now with this information, the kids start to think how best to go about helping. Back on Solum, however, Gwyn has made a calculated risk, and she has gone to seek the only other Vau N'Akat who she knows, we won't say trusts, but knows. So she arrives at an observatory, and she knocks on a door, and she walks up to see a lone man standing there. "Are you Iltheron?" she asks. And the Diviner turns around. Now you might think, Gwyn, because it went so well for you last time, but no. This Iltheron is a much younger man, a very different character. And can I just say, John Noble's voice, everything about Iltheron is an up from me in this episode. He's fantastic. He's so patient, he listens. He is the same character without the same issues. He believes Gwyn. All she really has to do is show him the heirloom that she bears, and he knows she can't fake that. So yeah, straight away. You can see as well his excitement at being a father. It is a very heartwarming scene, and it's, I suppose, what we wanted from season 1, but that character, that Diviner, couldn't deliver on this. We got a funny moment as well when he asks the librarian to walk up, and it's Dreadnought, you're looking well, but it's not Dreadnought. But still, Jimmy Simpson is back, so way. They find a way to reapproach the council and to have them listen. Aboard the ship, as you would imagine, they say too many things too loudly in front of the wrong ears, and Majel, that member of Nova Squadron, overhears everyone talking about Shuttle Bay 3. So she, ever the good cadet that she is, Says, well, we'll have to find out about this. And she goes and boards the turbo lift. And on the second stop, someone's on the way to deck 32 on a 29-deck ship. Lol. Although it's not the only time it's ever happened. Just look at the Enterprise E. How many decks did that thing have? We do get a great moment as well, though, where she keeps getting, it's stopping and starting, stopping and starting. And eventually, you know, the doors open and this poor officer is there. She just eyeballs him and says, you will get the next one. And the doors close again. That was brilliant. That was an up for me. This, of course, leads to a confrontation in Shuttle Bay 3, where you've got Dal, you've got Jankum, you've got Rok-Tahk, you've got Murph, you've got Zero trying to get the Infinity to work, because Dal comes up with the genius idea of flying the Infinity to another Shuttle Bay so that Majel won't find the Infinity. You know, like Dal, anyway. Yeah, it goes about as well as you'd expect. Majel and the two other members of Nova Squadron are standing there on the Infinity. A scuffle ensues. The ship gets activated and it starts to fly. Now, Rok-Tahk, Murph, and the two other members of Nova Squadron fall out the back of the ship. Everyone else is still on it when it tumbles through and it goes to the wormhole. And we're like, hey, wait, what? Yeah, they've gone through time. And that's the end of the episode. Episode 3, Who Saves the Saviors, itself a reference, of course, to another Star Trek episode of years gone by, sees the Infinity crash land on Solum 52 years in the future. Now, who else do we know is there? Well, the big honkin' protostar sitting there on the horizon is a bit of a giveaway, isn't it? Just so nice to see that ship again. Hope we see her fly. Majel, who of course has stowed away is a wrong word maybe, but is there on the planet with Dal, Zero and Jankum, knows full well that they can't interrupt any kind of timelines, even though it appears that they're in the future. So we get a great homage taken up to Star Trek IV, the one with the whales, when she tears a strip of fabric and wraps it around her eyebrows and ears to hide the fact that she's Vulcan. Also, I just want to take a second and be like, love her style. I love the two kind of like sideburns, I guess. It's definitely the wrong word, but they look fantastic. While they're there, Dal has this new sense of urgency to save Chakotay, because of course Chakotay is here on this planet, because it's Chakotay who sent the protostar through the wormhole, stranding himself and his first officer on Solum of the future, that set all of these events into motion. That then ended up getting Dal and the rest of the group off Tars Lamora. He feels like he can't abandon Chakotay. He can't leave Chakotay there to suffer. You know, when they're almost immediately arrested, Dal's a bit like, well, okay. But Zero does pipe in with, perhaps this is, I'm using this word here, but predestination paradox. Maybe they were always meant to go there. Maybe they were always meant to be the ones to help Chakotay launch the protostar. They are thrown into the brig. And initially Zero's like, oh, this is good, because if we're locked away, we can't interrupt events. And then of course they turn around and that's a very familiar looking back for that person who's lying on the ground in front of them, isn't it? Back on Solum of the present, we have Iltheron approaches the council. Now the council seems to be eating from Essensia's hands here. And of course, we know what Essensia's long-term plans are, is to, effectively incite this civil war. But Iltheron comes in and asks that his voice be heard. And they address him, of course, as Stargazer. Oh, which, by the way, obviously up for the obviousness of it all. But there was another line actually from the previous episode that I didn't highlight, is wondering how it feels to be an astronomer on a planet that cares nothing for the stars. And that loneliness as well as knowing there's so much else out there, and it is only short-sightedness that keeps the planet isolated. In fact, I'm giving that another up. That was excellently handled. But thankfully, his voice carries enough weight that the council listens to Gwyn again as she approaches them, and this time asks for an ancient rite that will, if she is successful, will force them to listen to her as a true Vaunakat, as opposed to what Essensia says that she is. Jump forward again, a lot of backing and forthing. The group have now met Chakotay, and we now have a name as well for his first officer, Adrik, who is this cool eagle-looking dude. Oh, we love him, yeah. And of course, the return of those Prodigy Season 1 uniforms as well from the Protostar, which really, really love those. Again, you can see with what feels like kind of ease that Robert Beltran, who of course returns to voice Chakotay, eases back into the role. He's very Starfleet. Very, very Starfleet. There's no gruff, oh, who are you? No time for you. Something that we've seen with some of a few of the Star Treks in recent times. He straight away, he listens to it. The kids kind of say, oh, we're, galactic traders. And you kind of get the sense of Chakotay's like, right, I believe you, without necessarily knowing their true origin. He listens to them when they say that they would like to maybe help get an escape, because, there is Dal going, hey, were you planning an escape today? And they both, himself, Chakotay and Adrik both like, well, the Vaunacat are smarter than asking us point blank like this, so maybe they do just want to know if we're planning an escape today. And so they reveal the fact that Adrik snuck a tricorder in that Jankum is able to kind of hack. And the amount of bird puns that Jankum comes out with in this episode, taken up. Check out the beak on Adrik. Didn't mean to ruffle your feathers. The best one being, we can fly the coop. And the fact that Adrik doesn't turn around and punch Jankum is just, I think it's a testament to, one, Adrik doesn't hit children, but two, yeah, okay, some of them are actually kind of funny, I'm not going to lie. Jankum manages to hack his mitt that had been removed by the Vaunacat when he'd been captured, and it can effectively, thing itself over to the console, deactivate the force field, and they all escape. Cushty! We've got a case of Thunderdome on Solum of the Past, because it turns out that Essentia and Gwyn effectively have to fight each other, one into submission, in the pit wherein all of the energy from their heirlooms come from, even though they have to leave their own heirlooms back on the surface. They sink through. Essentia's the first one to take this energy and form new weapons. Gwyn looks to be able to not overpower Essentia, but outthink her. It's basically its first one to emerge, not last one alive. So she starts to create all of these energy, get the energy to create basically stepping stones to get her up to the top of this pit. And Essentia, realizing a couple of seconds too late what she's doing, kind of goes, uh-oh, and chases after her. There's a lot of mustache twirling going on with Essentia, but it's not too bad. It's not like, haha, here's my entire dastardly plan in 1 second. Yeah, we don't have that going on, which is nice. And it keeps her above that level of one-dimensional villain, particularly in this scene. So it really does work for me. And Gwyn starts to climb. We have the escape happening 52 years in the future. Dal and the group volunteer to distract the guards so that Chakotay and Adrik can get as far as the Protostar. Because here's the crucial thing. Chakotay and Adrik have to get to the Protostar and engage it to fly through the wormhole. They are not to board the ship. Because remember, Chakotay and Adrik were not on board the Protostar when it was discovered in Lost and Found back in Season 1. So the distraction seems to be going well. In fact, I'm not going to lie, I really did enjoy Dal driving past going, haha, look how distracting I am. Taken up. Jankum's getting in on it, Magel's getting in on it, Zero's getting in on it. It's all going well. Dal gets the gun shot out of his hand, but he's okay, so that's fine. Chakotay and Adrik, things are all going as they should. The group get back to Infinity. Jankum's looking through the binoculars and, uh-oh, because Chakotay picks up the gun that was blasted out of Dal's hand, which hadn't been there before. He lays down covering fire so that he and Adrik can board the Protostar. They disengage the autopilot, fly the Protostar out of there and into the wormhole. This changes the timeline. Now, it's incredibly important that the timeline exists the way that it does because Gwyn's existence depends on it. And sure enough, back in the present, Gwyn starts to phase seemingly out of our reality, enough so that she misses one handhold, misses another, and then falls all the way down again. Now, still has the wherewithal to get the energy down there to form into effectively a grabbing chair so that she doesn't splatter all over the floor, but it does lead to a scene where John Noble, in just a couple of words, manages to put so much emotion into, Oh no, when Essentia is the one to climb out of the pit. That is a good ending to this episode. Episode 4, Temporal Mechanics 101. I mean, are they sponsoring this season? I had to laugh, sorry, when I saw the title of the episode. I went, do you think maybe they were leading to this, Sean? Still aboard the planet, you have Dal is trying to keep a brave face, but Zero gets a line in that says, you laugh, but your mind is full of abject terror. Because, of course, Zero as Medusan is telepathic, something that was demonstrated in episode 2 when Magel's own telepathic powers were somewhat improved by being close to a Medusan. It was just enough for me, because even in this cataclysm, still funny bits to be had. Now what they've got to do is they've got to start repairing the Infinity, and they've got to do it quickly because it took a bit of a beating in that crash landing. They know that the future, the past, everything depends on them setting things to right with the Protostar again. The two big parts of this storyline, well, they come together very quickly, but one deals, we're back in present Solum, and we close up on Gwyn. Now Gwyn is in a bad way, because she's phasing in and out of our quantum reality. Someone is trying to speak to her, and then when she looks up and sees it's Iltheron. And I cannot heap enough praise on John Noble and Ella Purnell in this episode. You get that closeness while still knowing that, hey look, the Diviner did try and kill you several times last season, but again, that this isn't the Diviner as we know him. It's so well done and so well handled. The animation is beautiful as well. There is a vulnerability to both of them as well, which comes across in spades in this episode. She sort of tells him enough without telling him everything as well. And he hears enough to go, I am not that man. You know, I am here with you. I am here for you. It's what we wanted from season 1, and we were sort of robbed of, because even when the Diviner started to come around, Essentia paid to that, didn't she? In the future, the Infinity Systems suddenly light up, and we get a message from someone, and what it is says, find Gwyn, and then there's a set of coordinates. Yeah, it is like, okay, well, is this Chakotay? Is this Janeway? We don't know. But what we have got going on in the background as well is that in present day, on the other side of the wormhole, Janeway and the crew of Voyager A are sitting there. They managed to jury-rig a probe, one that will survive long enough to be able to transmit a message through to the future. And they do manage to connect with the Infinity in the future. Dal is able to, it is one of the funny things, Dal is able to request a copy of Temporal Mechanics 101, which they are able to transfer through, and a whopper of an up Dr. Erin MacDonald, effectively appearing as herself, is narrating Temporal Mechanics 101, and we get some brilliant little references to Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, references to Judge Q, which I really enjoyed as well. Magel even speaks about, you know, this idea of different quantum realities. As part of her studies on Voyager, she read a case file of Lieutenant Worf, who managed to move between quantum realities while siphoning the energy from a nearby wormhole. Yeah, so parallels just doesn't get talked about enough, really, does it? In a way, this is a big Easter egg section of the episode, and I loved it. I have to say, I totally bought into it. Great to see Dr. Erin cameoing after her cameo from last season, and having her in this one as well, because just found out, for anyone who doesn't know, Dr. Erin MacDonald is the science advisor for Star Trek. Not just Prodigy, like for the franchise. And so seeing her on screen like this, however technically it is a bit cool. This is also part of a section where poor Jankum is doing his absolute best to repair the Infinity by the book, as he says it. And, you know, it was always going to come to this. Basically, he hits something hard enough, it starts to work. And percussive maintenance, taken up. Loved that one. Absolutely loved that one. This does allow them, because they've been working on turning the Infinity from a flying shuttle into a time machine, because this is going to help them go back toward Gwyn, Dal, and Magel and Zero have discovered the coordinates that was given to them is the coordinates of Gwyn, who's phasing in and out of this quantum reality. They are able to relate this to Jankum. They manage to jury-rig the ship. Happy days. Except that it doesn't work for a second. It may not work for a second, but that's what percussive maintenance is for. This allows them to travel back in time in this ship, same location, just traveling through time. They're able to pick up Gwyn. Iltheron is able to meet these people who they initially go, oh my god, it's the Diviner. But Gwyn is able to go, actually, he's on our side, he's good. They save her, and then they're like, right, okay, cool. Dal goes, okay, Jankum, can you make the ship fly? And Jankum's like, what? What? He is just about broken at this point, because he's had to do everything there, but the ship suddenly activates and starts flying, because they've got a mysterious benefactor, whoever that may be. This scene where they reunite with Gwyn is, again, absolute up to me. It's a gorgeous scene. It looks fantastic. And then when they do get back to the Voyager A as well, it is just heartwarming to see everyone back at home again. There is one thing, and this is going to be nitpicky. Dal, she's Admiral Janeway, not just Janeway. Yeah, you're a cadet now. Sit down, buddy. Episode ends with the Doctor, of course, jury-rigging an armband that helps Gwyn stabilize her quantum signature, because they're saying this is a stopgap, this is not a cure. You know, we're going to have to figure out and fix what's happened to the timeline, or we're going to lose Gwyn forever. That, mixed with a mysterious stranger that Murph might be speaking to, is how this episode ends. Episode 5, Observer's Paradox, is in a way, it's quite a simple episode in that it's quite condensed. We don't get much of a B plot in this one. It's pretty much all, you know, what can we do for Gwyn and the kids. So we open up effectively with the kids being not confined to quarters per se. We get their debrief scene where Admiral Janeway, I just gave out to myself, and the rest of the crew, or the rest of the bridge crew, effectively interrogate the kids as to what did you do, where did you go, why did you do that? That was silly. And, you know, Murph being Murph. And, you know, the rest of them go, that was very informative, crewman. Thank you for that. And so the Doctor is assigned to effectively babysit them. So please state the nature of the mentorship emergency, taken up from me. I just love the variation on the theme. Tiny little question, he's clearly transferring his program from place to place, so why is he wearing his mobile emitter when he does it? Anyway, tiny little down. The kids are effectively stuck in the room and they can't really do anything to help Gwyn or to work on this mystery while the Doctor's watching over them. So Zero decides they're gonna take a bullet for the team, and they ask the Doctor about the Doctor's latest holo novel, Love in the Time of Holograms. And we hear Rodrigo has managed to duplicate himself so he can be in two places at once. But Rodrigo also loves Anna, but he can only is available on Tuesdays. And poor Zero. Here's an up for Zero. Zero deserves it. Meanwhile, of course, you've got the rest of the kids trying to figure things out while Murph is seemingly just stealing things off their plate. Who really cares? What's going on? Mijel walks in, and you can tell that there has been a bit of bonding going on, but you know, Mijel still is very much, okay, duty, and the rest of Nova Squadron signal her to come over to their table, and so she does. And it's a bit sad, you know, because, you know, you kind of think, oh, new friend, okay. But then we get really distracted by the fact that Murph has just built a spiral on the ground, one that is quite familiar to fans of Star Trek Voyager. Now, one of the problems with that, as earnestly as Murph is trying to communicate, no one speaks his language. So even Gwyn, for example, doesn't speak his language. I mean, Gwyn can speak a lot of languages. They do try, and even Jankum tries to jury-rig a comm badge as well to see if it will translate Murph's language. Sure, we get some words out of it, but they're nonsense. You know, they're not arranged in any particular way. You know, the obvious person to ask is Rock Talk. But Rock has no interest whatsoever in breaking any regulations and getting in trouble because, as she's concerned, they've already been in too much trouble, whatever happened to officer training school. So, first of all, up that Rock and the Whale are friends. Folks, my latinum up is that the whale is named Gillian. Anyone out there who is familiar or has watched or oh come on, it's the one with the whales, it's Gillian. You know, oh god, that, yeah, sorry, that was easy latinum up for me. Gillian supports Rok-Tahk's decision not to get involved, just as Gillian then later supports Rok-Tahk's decision to get involved. Anything for her. I love this friendship, because of course Rok is going to get involved, and of course Rok is going to help translate what Murph is trying to say. Now, she can't really understand Murph, but she starts to figure stuff out, and Dal gets very excited because, oh, that's what she looks like, she's about to hit a breakthrough. And she reckons that melanoid slime worms, they don't know much about them, but what they do know is that they might have evolved from an aquatic type of species. So, I know, perhaps Gillian might understand Murph far quicker than, say, the Starfleet Universal Translator could. This gives us the idea to put Murph into the water with Gillian, and we get this beautiful, I'm not entirely sure I understand it, but this beautiful moment where Murph grows a tail and webbings between his arms and sides. You know, clearly Murph is adaptable in any situation. And Rok, of course, bringing him into cetacean ops and dropping like the stone that she is. I mean, she's Brikar. And Murph interacting with Gillian allows them to go, right, Murph is saying a bunch of letters, which they manage to spell out, which goes, find me, and a bunch of numbers. And they come through a couple of different variations of what these numbers might mean until they realize it's not coordinates, you know, it's not a star date or anything. Of course, Gwyn realizes it's the variance on her armband. And so they put the numbers in and she goes blasting through time and space. Pretty light show, by the way, where she is given the location of where Chakotay is. Come find me, it says. Okay, 100%. She gets back and they go, right, okay, here's what we're going to do next, is we've got to figure out a way to get to that place, but at least now we know where we're going. This is all while at the same time Starfleet has officially gone, we're not just shuttering the mission, we've got to close that wormhole. It's got too dangerous to leave open, so we actually get a lovely cameo from Ronnie Cox. Jellicoe is in the episode. Love him or hate him, great to see him. But this leads to a heartbreaking scene where Admiral Janeway is ordered, you've got to close that wormhole. And you know, this is not just a spatial phenomena, this is her link to Chakotay. She gives the order, then she goes to her ready room, and we get some fantastic little eggs there. 3, 2, 1, and she gives the order fire without any hesitation. Because if there's one thing Janeway's good at, is Janeway sees the bigger picture. And the wormhole is closed. And you'll have to watch Ellie's video next week to find out where we go from here. Would you care to join me, however, at a very busy Cetacean Observations? Now, for Into the Breach Part 1, we have the Rev 9 is in the cloud in the Star Trek universe opening logo. We have the All Good Things, Endgame comm badge as well. We have the phaser range that we've seen in such previous episodes where Guinan was phasering with Worf on the phaser range. We also had where Picard and Riker were there as well. Lieutenant Larkin from The Trouble with Edward gets a name drop in the beginning there. That was the squeal I was referring to earlier on. In fact, taken up for that one. The fact that we have Starfleet Academy itself, we have the UFP flag floating away in the distance, which is just absolutely gorgeous. Those lovely shots of San Francisco, which are turned up every time you want to see Starfleet headquarters. The Voyager A registration, NCC 74656. Very nice, very nice. EMH himself. I'm a doctor, not a butler. We have reference to his holo novels. Dal asks, are we having a new scrap with the Borg? Dal saying timey-wimey, which just made me so happy. The Lamar class. Now, we covered this before in our breakdown of the original footage that was released, but Lamar class named after Hedy Lamarr, who was so much more than, say, just a performer, if you like, back in the day. Seriously, check out Hedy Lamarr. So interesting. Now, we get a reference to the fact that the original Voyager is a floating museum, and that currently what's happening is the Romulan evacuation project. Because, yes, the timelines are starting to merge here. Remember, Picard Season 1. We're kind of coming up to that time. Nova Squadron, as they already went through what the significance there. Janeway says Admiral Picard, she informed Admiral Picard that no, she won't be losing this one in the Delta Quadrant. You would wonder for a second, now, if you think about Nemesis, Janeway made Admiral before Picard did, so why is Janeway reporting to Picard? It's not about seniority, it's the fact that Admiral Picard is in charge of the entire Romulan evacuation project, so any ship resources presumably need to go through him. We get the lovely shot of dry dock, we're going back as far as the motion picture there, slipstream drive, the Bolian berth. There's so many different alien characters in these episodes that rather than go through and call them all out as Easter eggs, this is just kind of Star Trek now. Just the idea of Bolian birth was fun to me. Sue me. Cetacean operations. Temporal Mechanics 101. You see a shot of Zero holding a glass while they're all in the mess all together. Zero, being non-corporeal, does not need to eat or drink. This very much reminded me of Odo in The Way of the Warrior, who sits there with a glass with coffee in it to simulate the eating experience, thus making those around them more comfortable. Nice one, Zero. Nice one. In Dal's quarters, we see a model of the Protostar. We see Federation isolinear chips dotted around, and we see Dal's glasses or goggles that he wore for most of Season 1. In sickbay, the lighting design behind the bio bed is very evocative of the Voyager's sickbay. Waking Dal up with a Borg is short for cyborg. Very much so. We get Jeffrey's tubes. We get the cloaked Infinity. For me, although they are very different ships, this is like, the holo ship from Insurrections sounds well. They don't look anything like, in fact, anything. The Infinity looks like they've got the back of a Maquis Raider stuck onto it. Jellicoe, of course. Temporal shield emitters get a lot of references. We got Andorians and Tellarites standing in unison. I like it. Now we're going into the Breach Part 2. Robert Picardo in the credits, of course. I feel a bit bad for the pilot of the Voyager shuttle because she was wearing red and basically gets red-shirted pretty quickly. The Beta Quadrant border gets a reference there. In the footage of Chakotay, we get the return of the Prodigy Season 1 Protostar uniform. Admiral Janeway says, "If I know anything, it's that time travel is not to be messed with." That's kind of how you got back to the Alpha Quadrant early, but anyway. The inconsistency of deck. You know, this could be an Easter egg itself. The Enterprise A, the Enterprise E. When attempting to stop Dal from taking off in the Infinity, Majel quotes says, under the authority of Starfleet Regulation Paragraph 4, which reads, "An officer must consider themselves under arrest unless in the presence of the most senior fellow officers presently available, the officers must give satisfactory answers to those charges." This comes from the original series episode, The Omega Glory. She uses a Vulcan nerve pinch on Jankum, which inadvertently activates the Infinity. On now to episode 3, Who Saves the Saviors? We see the headband use, which of course is a direct lift from Star Trek 4, the one with the whales. The reuse of the word stargazer as well. When approached by Chakotay, Dal says, "Nice tattoo." Majel speaks to the importance of having people from the future in past events. For example, the Bell riots, the Cochrane warp test. Majel then herself is involved in a funny scene. Now, obviously, Majel Barrett. I mean, I think it's a brilliant nod to that character. But then she uses a neck pinch on a Vaunicat guard. She's obviously very, very strong because the Vaunicat guard was wearing armor. And the neck pinch works through that. Okay. Chakotay says, "Is that a Vulcan neck pinch?" And Dal tries to go, "No, it was a hand chop." Which to me, I think is a reference to the original series episode, A Taste of Armageddon, where it was written into the script that Spock incapacitate a guard by using fisticuffs. Leonard Nimoy just went, "Yeah, Spock wouldn't do that," and improvised the Vulcan neck pinch. Very, very nice. Dal, of course, quoting the Romulan commander from Balance of Terror when he shakes Chakotay's hand and says, "I'd like to think in another time we could have been friends." Temporal Mechanics 101 gets many references and of course has been referenced many times in Star Trek before. Temporal shielding makes you immune to changes in the timeline. We know that from Year of Hell. The Sacagawea is the name of Gwyn's shuttle, which unfortunately went the wrong way of some Vaunicat warships. There's talk of quantum signatures. Dal asks them to science later, which, although I don't think this is a reference, of course, to Discovery Season 5, which I believe would have come after this, even though it was released first, but it still makes me think of that scene. Problem now, science later. Made me smile. Jankum thinks it might have been a ghost that helped him. The Doctor goes, "I'm a doctor, not an exorcist." Majel's reference to Lieutenant Worf jumping between quantum timelines using an inverse warp field siphoned from a temporal anomaly. Yes, the episode parallels. Dr. Aaron MacDonald, as I've already said. In that scene, we see the original series Constitution class. We see the Klingon bird of prey doing a slingshot around a sun. We see Judge Q in his getup. Jankum says he's all out of miracles, and if that isn't a reference to Scotty, I don't know what is. The temporal stabilizer that the Doctor jury-rigs for Gwyn, very evocative, of course, of the armband that poor Chief O'Brien wore in the episode Visionary. And at the very last second of that episode, just after presumably Chakotay, although we don't know that for a fact, speaks to Murph, that looks like a warp bubble in the background there of stellar cartography. Nice, because that would be a temporal thing as well, wouldn't it? So yeah, we would have seen that in episodes like Where No One Has Gone Before, Remember Me, things like that. So yeah, nice. Nice to see that again. Number 5 then, Observer's Paradox. We have, I haven't seen a crew this dysfunctional since the Cerritos, the Doctor says. Take an up, you deserve an up for that one. Please state the nature of the mentorship emergency, of course. All the references to the Doctor's Hollow novels, and the fact that Rodrigo can only see Anna on Tuesdays. Gillian the whale, amazing. The spiral that Murph builds with the bits of food and everything, it's called a cha-mu-zi, and it is, you know, it was said to be used by the descendants of the Rubber Tree people, and of course we know that to be Chakotay's people, which we learned in the episode Tattoo. It's associated as well with the sky spirits, and it's a symbol of healing. As we're running through the computer to find out about this, it's said to be associated with the planet Trebus, which, according to the novel Pathways by Jerry Taylor, was established as Chakotay's homeworld. Now, there's a couple of varying different bits of canon when it comes to Chakotay's homeworld, but it looks like in this case we're going to establish Trebus as Chakotay's homeworld. Chakotay is the only person who's in service associated with this, even though he's MIA. And we get that big flash of his serial number 47 Alpha 612, which was established in the episode In the Flesh. Now we get to see Jellicoe again. We get Bonnie Gordon playing Gillian, who is just awesome. And she also plays the computer voice as well. Just absolutely deserves a shout out there. Jankum wonders if they're listening to Klingon opera or not. Zero says that the sequence of numbers is not a Fibonacci sequence. A Fibonacci sequence is when each number is equal to the sum of the preceding two numbers. And it's not that. So I learned something today. In Janeway's quarters at the end of the episode, we see an animated version of the photo of herself and Molly, and she's obviously cut her ex-fiancé Mark out of that photo because he was in the original. I can assure you, we saw that in the episode Persistence of Vision. And you know, fair enough, he gave up on her. The model of Voyager, Janeway's Starfleet diploma, her original comm badge, a phaser that we would have seen on that ship. Now we've got a silver spider. Myself and Ellie are agreed on this. That must be a reference to Arachnia, Queen of the Spider People. Like, it must be. We then see two other things that we required some help with. So Ellie, all credit. So when it comes to the mirror, this seems to be a reference to the planet Isabo's Shirt, written by Kristen Beyer. In that, Janeway and Chakotay meet in Venice, where Janeway gives Chakotay, it's called a bonding box, to which the response is you must give something of equal value back. And Chakotay gives her a mirror, which was adorned with stones from different worlds they had visited, and there was an inscription on the back of it. Now, we don't see the stones, I will say that, but for her to spend a moment on this mirror, it definitely seems like a nod to that. So that is from a little bit of beta canon there as well. And we were both pulling our hair out going, there's a coaster, or something that looks like a circular seal that seems to be sitting vertical, and we could not for the life of us figure out what it was. Massive thank you, Aaron Waltke, for confirming that that was in fact the seal of the city of Bloomington, Indiana, which is of course the birthplace of Catherine Janeway. That is everything for this section of Star Trek Prodigy Season 2. Thank you everyone who managed to get through this. If you took a coffee break, no one to blame you. I took a few. You're awesome, you're wonderful. Ellie will be here next week with episodes 6 to 10, so look forward to that. Please stream the show. It's as simple as that. Stream the show. Do it as often as you can. Leave it playing in the background. Go about your daily chores. If you've already seen the episodes, watch it as many times as you like, because that's how Netflix will be inspired to commit to a season 3. We can make a tangible impact on this, so I hope you'll join us. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you who subscribes. Thank you everyone following us on the various socials. We're at TrekCulture everywhere. We're at TrekCulture White Tea on Instagram, just to be different. I am at Sean Ferry. You can catch me on the various socials. At Edit Chris Edit on the various socials. At E Little Child on the various socials. And at Tom C. Finn on the various socials as well. You are awesome. You are wonderful. Thank you so much. Let us know what you thought in the comments below. Until I see you again, live long and prosper, live logs and proper, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks so much.